echo. So it's preparing to live stream right now as we speak.
Yeah, I just got a notice saying it is being live streamed.
Okay, so fingers crossed that it doesn't.
Well done.
Weird. Well, we'll see if it doesn't make that weird sound.
Well, listen, if it was me doing it, we'd be here until 7 o'clock.
Okay, so welcome everybody. My apologies for the delay in the in getting us online here with the technology. I'd like to call this to order. Are we echoing? So it's preparing to live stream right now as we speak.
Yeah, I just got a notice saying it is being live streamed.
Okay. We did this last time, remember? And it echoes. I'm not sure what we can do about this.
Was it headphones that worked last time?
We'll try them again, Claire.
Because I think you're picking up the recording on your end.
Seems like there's a delay. So let me try the headphones. And I think we did, I don't know if it helped. I will try. Oh, I've got to put it back on again. Just bear with me. Are you laughing at me, Gary? I don't blame you. Okay, so go. I'm putting on YouTube again.
Next time we'll make Gary set it up. That'll teach you.
See,
it is a lot easier.
Same thing. It's a lapse. I'm not sure what to do about this, everybody.
Well, what I'm hearing is mostly okay with the odd second of an echo, but I can certainly follow who's saying what. So I'm okay at this point.
I wonder if I can.
I'll go with the flow.
I don't know what we did last time. We turned off YouTube, I think, last time.
Oh.
See? Is it just me hearing this, or are you hearing like a seconds of delay in speech?
I'm not hearing it anymore.
Are you not? Okay, maybe it's just me hearing it then. So maybe I should just continue as usual.
It's working for me. It's smooth.
Okay, so not me,
clear.
I'm hearing both. So I will try and focus. Again, I apologize, everybody. I will try and focus more clearly on, let me share my screen. This will be a lesson in distraction. Let me share my screen with the agenda. So I'd like to call this meeting to order at 5:15. Is there anybody that has any pecuniary interests to disclose at all?
No such luck.
Nope.
No, it is.
Okay. So, okay, I'd like a motion to approve the agenda, if I could, please.
I'll be happy to move that.
Okay, a seconder for that, please. Claire, I'm
Sure.
thinking you're taking minutes for us. I should double check that.
Actually, I've got some minutes going here.
Perfect.
Okay, I'm going to have to, I can't do this. Just bear with me, folks. I have to turn this off. I can't do it.
No,
I cannot work this way. It's just not going to happen.
So Anne,
Yes?
you might have to just turn the YouTube sound right down because you don't need to hear it.
That's true.
That's
Okay,
what
so let me
it is.
see if I can do that.
There's a thought.
Can I just mute it? Let's try that. All right.
So how's that go now? Better?
That's much better. You're a genius. Thank you, Gary.
I had to think about it, but it was funny for a while.
Thankfully, we know each other, and the intention was a good one. Okay, back to sharing my screen. And Claire, I hate to pose, but I think it'd be super helpful.
Janice said she had it on the go.
Right,
Yeah.
Janice, the secretary.
Yep.
Janice.
Thank you,
Unless you're-
Janice.
Unless you're sick of it and Claire wants to take it over, which
Forgive
is fine.
me,
But
Janice.
that's
Forgive
quite
me.
all right. That's
I
okay.
apologize. I did know
Don't
that.
worry about it.
Okay. All right. So we have a mover and a seconder for the approval of the minutes.
Sure. I will second if no one has yet.
Thank you.
Yep. Here we
Right.
go.
Okay, so as we know, everybody, we were back and forth with council several times to try and figure out what the process should be. And we were unable to move forward on certain things because we didn't have any response from council. So finally, we did get some response from council. These are the 4 questions that were posed. There's not a lot of information, so I'd like to go through each one of these questions. And I'm not sure why Bob is not here with us today, but that's okay. The first question that we posed to council and staff was growth in the village population. And the response was the village uses census data, which is available on the Census Canada website. The data from 2021 census will be available in February 2022. So
I do know, or at least there used to be a spot that you could see projections between the census.
Okay.
And I mean, I found it easily the first time because I used to work for Statistics Canada.
Oh.
I'm a little rusty, but I may be able to at least get their projections on the off chance they're useful. So I'll see if I can do that. And
so that would
because,
be wonderful. Yes.
Yeah, I'll take care of that over the next couple of weeks.
So if we can add that as a task for you, for at least for the next meeting, Janice, so just take a quick look, and if it's possible, we other than that, we may have to wait until February of 2022. So that's fine. Thank you for that, Janice. Anybody have any comments or questions about question 1, or no?
If nothing turns up, we could use last year's as a, if we're looking back comparing to the 2011 waste management plan, then that'll still give us an idea.
That's a good suggestion. Yes, that's great. That would be great.
That's true.
The second question was, advise if any of the recommendations in the EAC strategic plan of 2018 have been implemented. Bob was going to advise us on that. He's not here today. So I guess, can we move that question number 2 forward to the next meeting, please?
Yep.
That would be great. Question number 3 was advise if the village has moved on partnerships with other regional communities on a joint contract for waste management companies. So the response was, when contacted by Public Works, the majority of our neighbors have signed long-term contracts, which I think we knew, making partnerships more difficult. However, not being hindered by a long-term contract allows our municipality to join the first wave of municipalities to enter the producer pays program of standardized recycling. So that was the response that we got. How do we feel about that response? What do we think? Any comments about that? I know.
What is the producer pay program?
Well, so what they're proposing is, I think it's 3 years, so I think it's 2025, if I'm not mistaken, Claire, that they're looking at making the producers provincially, the producers responsible for their own packaging, basically. And this is not a done deal necessarily. This is what the province of Ontario is looking at. Claire, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I'm getting hazy on the specifics of that long-term plan. It sounds like the cooperation with neighboring municipality isn't a go for this council.
Yeah, and that sounds like, I wonder if we need clarification on that, so we know what we're working towards. To me, it's fairly obvious, but we should probably, what does everybody think about requesting clarification on that?
Yeah, I'd be curious if they approached the company serving Smiths Falls and North Grenville, or only the municipalities themselves.
Good point.
Because the company may be willing to alter things.
Yep. So I wonder if we can make that a resolution.
Okay.
We can do that. Resulted they to
speaking of resolutions,
request.
Go ahead, Janice. Sorry.
I was just going to say request. Now I've forgotten the word I was going to use. Clarification.
Staff,
yeah. Did they contact, as you say, just Public Works in the municipalities as opposed to the actual waste management companies?
Yeah.
Because you might get 2 different possibilities.
Yeah.
Depending on who you spoke to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's a very good. That's a very good point, Claire. Thank you for that. Speaking of resolutions, Bob was going to fill us in about the process. I was hoping he was going to be here, but we'll just continue on as we have before. So I don't think, and this is that waiting for 3 years, I don't think it puts us in a good position being in a month-to-month contract, and waiting for what may or may not happen in the long term does not protect our current landfill site. So the only thing that we have control over is our waste management site. So if more and more plastic is going into the garbage, more and more Tetra Paks or whatever the case are going into our landfill site, then I don't see how that benefits us, and it will only impact the landfill site in a negative way, right? What does everybody else think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said it.
So short, you know, it's we need to act now. And if we're looking at the overall waste management plan, I think that is one of the key issues here. How are we caring for our landfill site? So, any comments about that, or any?
Our neighbors have capacity in their landfill sites. Like, I get the impression, I think a lot of them are running out of landfill sites. So when they sign these contracts, it's also to truck it away to wherever it goes, right? I don't know how many of them are to their own landfill site anymore for the disposal.
I know that NG doesn't have a landfill site. That for sure they don't have a landfill site, but I don't know about the others. So yeah, I
So
mean,
you see
presumably that
it's right. Like you can see how it complicates though. You have municipalities that have no landfill site and they need recycling, and then you have ones that have a recycling program and their own landfill site that they dump into. So I mean, they're going to be. It would make sense to me that they're different companies vying for different parts, right? Like the ones that can give you the best price to haul it away to whoever takes it are gonna probably win in the bids in those municipalities that don't have their own dump, right?
Mm-hmm,
And they'll take whatever recycling program goes with that as part of that other part. Whereas we do have the luxury of having room, and I think that's where we get stuck. I don't think we're not as lucrative for these companies either, right?
Oh, I see what you mean. I haven't thought about it from that perspective, and I don't know how they make those decisions either. From yeah, that's an interesting perspective, Gary.
I just don't know if it really matters, right? I don't know if it actually.
I don't either. Yeah, and I'm not sure how that works.
So the more reason I think to ask the companies themselves, because I believe I know it's the same company servicing North Grenville, Smiths Falls, and Montague,
yes.
And I don't know who's servicing Augusta and Elizabethtown Kitley, but I believe they accept more recycling as well than our provider does. So I think it'd be worth, because they can't all be in that same position, but it'd be worth finding out from a company or several.
Yeah. Or even from that one specifically, to have a conversation directly with that one. And the name escapes me, Claire. I know you remember.
Mterra is the big
Mterra,
one.
that's right. Yeah, that's the one that's newly servicing both Montague and NG. It's very recent, I think, that they've signed contracts with Mterra. So
they do. They Montague. You said they
yes,
do.
Mterra is Montague as well. Yes.
And Smiths Falls.
Okay.
So Montague's joined up with Smiths Falls. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is yeah. So having a conversation with Mterra might be more fruitful than directly with other municipalities. So I guess the question is how much homework was actually done on that? How much time was spent researching that information, right? Other than just the cost. So can we say that we're not satisfied, or that's not the right word, that we don't support waiting for the producer pay program? We would like to see action taken in the short term as a recommendation. If they're coming to us to ask for recommendations and ask for our insight, I think that's a pretty basic thing if we're not managing our waste. The rest is pretty hard to discuss, I think. Go ahead, Claire. I know you're thinking.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I feel like I need to refresh on the producer pay system itself and when that implementation is supposed to look like. If it is 2025, then I absolutely agree that we should be doing something much more short term.
Yeah, hanging about 3 years. If it's taking that long to get that program underway, fine. But I agree, waiting 3 years and twiddling your thumbs in the meantime seems to be a little less than desirable. Surely there is something we can nudge that will, in the short term, be better.
Yes, not to mention it is affecting our landfill directly.
Mhm. Yeah.
Right? And that's part of the issue at hand here. I'm just going to do quick the beauty of looking things up.
The municipality should be able to calculate if our amount going in is up or down. They weigh it every single time the truck goes back. Like they do know.
We've been asking for that.
I know.
Well, that's partly, I think, question 4, isn't it?
Yeah, stats for the landfill site.
How much going in versus recycling, etc.
Yeah.
So we still haven't got any hint for that either. And I must admit, now maybe I just haven't searched the website all that carefully. I haven't found a lot of information on that, but I admit I did mean to do a little more poking around and I didn't. So maybe there's something there I just didn't see.
I don't think so. Not on the website. So I'm looking online at this program at ontario.ca, and they're saying the Blue Box program, the recycling program, they're looking at December 31st, 2025, that producers will be fully responsible for providing Blue Box services province-wide.
Okay, December.
So we're focusing on it's more the Blue Box issue at hand. I mean, I think, waste and electrical and hazardous waste that's set up in different areas. We've got waste electronic program in our landfill site currently. So I think focusing specifically on the Blue Box program is what the issue at hand is, and that's not until 2025. So
yeah.
That's 4 years.
Yeah, so keeping those the potentially recyclable products out of our landfill site should be the top of the list of our waste management plan.
Mm-hmm.
Or certainly one of the goals. Any other questions or comments about that? I think we.
Yeah, but
well, very much on it's. Go ahead, Gary.
We'll have trouble getting an actual statistic from them on how much recycle goes to the recycle centers. The one that we can and should be easily get is the ones we weigh, because it's right at our own facility every time it goes back. So, I mean, one would hypothesize that it's getting larger because of the lack of packaging coming to houses, but we have a bit more population too. So
yeah,
you also would expect that you're going to be up a little bit. I think the question is it a reasonable amount up, or is it going up exponentially? Because we're like, if you talk to the guys at the dump, they will not say that they won't say anything bad, but they don't think that we do not do a great job of the containers and the plastics going into those containers. We have lots of contamination every time.
Yes, we do. That's a fact.
It is, and
part of it's education. Yeah, part of it's education, but not. Yeah. People don't realize how little we can actually recycle, and haven't taken the time to find that out. Right?
That's right. There's lots of reasons why loads get rejected, but the one guy at the dump said he bets that half of the stuff we send gets rejected, which is
half.
I didn't know that. So what happens then, though, is you go all the way to the recycling center and they don't take it, so then it gets trucked to like Moose Creek dump or whatever, right? It doesn't go in our dump, but it does go to a dump if it's not clean enough, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. if he's 100% right though. So I mean, I think that's just as bothersome as any of the rest, right? Like you don't
Irresponsible.
really,
Yeah.
we need to get, like, if we could get our percent accepted up, that's probably
That's a good
as
big
important
step.
as anything. Yeah, it's a
Especially
very
as the
important.
population grows, right? It becomes more and more important to do that.
And frankly, I don't care if it winds up in our dump versus somebody else's dump. It's in the dump, which is not where it belongs. So,
Yeah.
you know, we're
Yeah.
not just letting down ourselves, we're letting down some other poor location
Yeah.
that is now taking our stuff. Just because we spread it someplace else doesn't mean it's not our fault.
No, it doesn't, Janice. And
You
make a very good point. I mean, we only have control over our own space
Sure.
and landfill site, but you're absolutely right. It's ethically, it's the wrong thing to do, above and beyond that. So go ahead, Gary.
I think one of the things we do need to ask is they should be able to get from Limerick the percentage of our stuff that's rejected.
Yeah.
Which would be very scary if it's a big number, but at least if it's a big number and we're not doing very well, maybe if we get more attention around that by writing about what you're supposed to do to get it accepted, maybe we will get it a higher level of them accepted. Because my impression is that I don't think we do a good job, but I don't know that we don't, because they never say a number, right?
Of
Yeah.
course not.
And
So are
what
you go ahead.
Oh, what I hear anecdotally is that people who take their stuff directly to the landfill site get told all of the specifics of, like, you need to take labels off of these products and all of this stuff. But people getting pickup never get that messaging. They never hear that. Someone's not looking over their stuff and telling them what's wrong and why it's going to be rejected. So if we can collect that list of requirements and put it out there to people, along with that number, Gary, that would be great to know if we can find out how much is rejected from Limerick's recycling center. That would be
even a rough idea.
Yeah.
Even a rough idea.
So would that be a resolution then? Another resolution is getting that information from Limerick, if at all possible.
Yeah, but sorry, before that one, I just want to circle back quickly to the statistics of our landfill site, because in the 2011 waste management plan, there's a lot of discussion of the statistics of blue box diversion calculations and benchmarks that they're trying to hit within the next 5 years. So they have an obligation to have been tracking that. I think they have tracked that, but we haven't received the information. And I don't know if it's publicly available or where to find it. But
so specifically, beyond just talking about waste management in general, it might behoove us to focus on actually the blue box and what happens in that, more targeted, finding information more targeted way. Claire, I think you make a really good point. If they've made that commitment, and that was commitment on the initial waste management plan, how are they measuring that?
And like it says here on the agenda, like, I think what we need is tons of waste so we can compare that to the demographic change, and tons of recyclables, blue box diversion specifically, that they are supposed to be tracking as well.
Come up with something that's like a reasonable target or a reasonable benchmark.
It's in the original plan.
No, that's it. But if we don't know how the area has grown or how successful the program is being, it's pretty hard to decide whether you're doing well or not. As Gary said, if they won't give you a number, you're guessing. And I know there have been things that you're not supposed to put out in the blue box that I was at one time, because nowhere did I read that it shouldn't be done.
Yeah,
there's definitely a lack of education.
So we need to work on that kind of publicity, for lack of a better word, but we need all those inputs that we can then use to try and boost that.
Yeah, definitely.
So blue box statistics are really important.
I think there's like two streams for the recycling. I mean, there's the paper box board one, and then there's the plastic one. And I could be wrong, but I'm betting that the plastic one is a terrible statistic, and the paper
Yes.
one's pretty darn good.
Yes, and that would be, I think that would be a, yes, yeah.
So
The plastic one,
Yeah.
plastic slash metal,
The
right?
paper one's easier to understand.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Although
Yeah.
there are lots of pizza
The
boxes.
paper's easy to understand.
Yeah, it's easier to understand. I still see lots of things in paper that shouldn't be in there, but
So
I
did you
agree with you,
read the
Gary. I think
list?
statistically, that would be an obvious one. Plastic
But
slash
if you-
metal.
If you read the list for paper, it says pizza boxes are okay.
Mm,
they haven't been for a while, though.
I wouldn't.
no,
Well,
I
I've
don't
always
think
looked
so.
at it and thought, well, it's not clean paper.
Yeah,
You
no, I
can't
don't
really-
think it is. I don't think it is, Janice. I have to look
I
on the
wouldn't
website,
expect it to be, but
Excuse
it
me.
was not clear.
Yeah,
The guys at the landfill site will tell you, no, it's not.
it's not. It's for
Yeah.
sure. So there's a big disconnect from what we hear at the landfill
Yeah.
site and what people, the knowledge and information that residents who do not go to the landfill site, they just don't have it, right? It's not comprehensive on the website either.
Mhm.
So yes. So back to, I don't want to digress too much. Let's bring up number 4 because what we're talking to address is number 4. So the stats for the use of the landfill site for the last, latest 5 years available. Should be the last 5 years. Brad will be back from his vacation shortly. This was given to me last month, and I will request the information from him. What stats are you interested in, or is it a total of tons of waste and tons of recyclables? So I think we need to clarify that question for Bob to give to Brad, and definitely the recyclables. I don't know if we want to break down the recyclables.
If they can, why not?
Claire, what do you
Yeah.
think?
I'd say
Yeah.
ask for a bit of detail and
Yeah.
roll it up. If
Yeah.
that's what we can get, that would be my reaction.
So, and as well as the tons of waste, because as you pointed out, Gary, we're going to be able to measure that. They have to measure that. We know what's coming and going. So it would be interesting to compare those statistics.
I'm positive they have to report it every single year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
me too. Yeah.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
do we need to make that a resolution?
Is it one from last time?
It was,
I think
I don't
it's-
think it was a response. It wasn't a resolution from last time. I don't think it was, Janice. I'm going to look it up because I do not recall.
I don't entirely either.
I'm just going to bring it up here. I can search it. If we did just,
No, I don't think it was specifically. Now that you mention it, we
I
can
don't,
do
I think I
another.
was just looking for information.
Yeah.
So a resolution number 1, just to remind people, that was the table handling one. If I could actually type resolution. Number 2 was the I think there were was the
Well, I can
Sorry.
see what happened. I accidentally typed 2 3s when the first was supposed to be 1, then 2, then 3.
Yeah, it's okay. So the second one was,
Honestly.
number 3 was, be it hereby resolved that the the EAC moves to reject participation in the impact food waste management, the waste reduction challenge. And I
Yeah.
think there was a duplication. I'm looking for
Yeah,
the third one.
We were talking about number 4 as a resolution and decided to see if we could just, as I recall, since I've got my previous notes, we
Okay,
decided to hold back making it a resolution last time. Doesn't mean we can.
okay.
To see if we
So
could get some of that information simply by asking, rather than making it quite so official.
Okay.
So what does everybody think about that? Making a specific resolution? I think it tends to get lost in the in the minutes?
It's too bad Bob's not here to
know.
speak to that point. Because then we could get it cleared up right away, but I think we have no choice but to make a resolution if we want it to go in front of council, so.
Sure.
Yeah, I think we need to make it a resolution.
So,
Alrighty.
resolve to request the waste and diversion rates of landfill statistics for the last 5 years? Is that
Yep.
what we're
Yeah.
asking?
Yeah,
Okay.
do we want to break it down? So we want the tons of waste and tons of recyclables, and maybe put in brackets, paper versus metal plastic or something like that? Do we want to be really specific?
Sure.
There we are, paper versus metal plastics. And as I say, start asking for that. I don't see why on earth they wouldn't know that
I know,
and see where we get.
I know.
but
Yeah,
that
but I think if
should-
it's
Staff
more
would.
obvious when it's a resolution. Sorry, go ahead, Claire. I interrupted.
Well, staff knows that, but because we have to communicate through council to staff, it's tricky to find out.
Yes,
And then we were talking about trying to find out the rejection rate from Limerick themselves.
yes. So I think we need to make that another resolution.
All right. Yep, that's listed there already. I've got it down.
Okay. So how many resolutions do we have currently then? We've got 3. Do you
That's
mind-
two new
yeah.
ones.
Okay, do you mind recapping what we have for resolutions, please?
Assuming this is correct.
Of course.
The first was rejecting participation in the Canada Food Waste Challenge. The second was supporting Sustainable Merrickville Wolford for table for handling
sorry,
waste
Janice,
at events.
I'm going to interrupt for a second. I'm sorry. I mean the
Yeah.
ones that we've written for today.
Oh, for today
Sorry,
we
yes,
have.
yes,
No,
sorry
it's
about
just
that. I should
that's
have
1,
been
2,
clear.
3. Resolution or fourth on a running list. Request the statistics from Limerick as to how much recycling is actually being rejected.
Right.
Because we're not getting that specific information. And then
Does
request.
everybody agree on
the-
that one? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Sorry, go on. Go ahead.
And it ties in with the next one, but it's slightly different details. Request the statistics for waste and diversion rates for the last 5 years, separating paper from the metal plastic program. So get more
Good.
details on what is actually being diverted and what's being rejected.
Great. And I think another one of the resolutions was because of our concern about not having a contract.
Yes.
And and it was addressing or asking the question. Again, I'm not sure if this is a resolution as to whether Public Works has actually contacted Mterra or whether they've just contacted other municipalities.
Yep.
And then why do we want them to contact Mterra? I guess we have to explain that. Right, Claire? Is that a resolution or is that what does everybody think of?
Again, I think it's too bad that we don't have a member of council or a member of staff to, well, maybe Bob's here now. Maybe he'll let us know.
Oh, here's Bob. Yes. Okay. Hi, Bob.
Hi, hang on a sec. I'll try and unmute. There. Are we
You
muted?
are unmuted. Yeah.
I'm unmuted? Good stuff. No, I checked my emails yesterday and I didn't get an invite, so I assumed we weren't on.
Oh no, you were. I sent you an invite today and CC'd you on it. So anyway, we're glad you're here. Claire has a question for you, please.
Yes.
Yeah, well, we were just trying to figure out what to do about the following up on what fellow municipalities are doing with their recycling programs. The feedback that was received from council was that staff had contacted local municipalities and they were all in long-term contracts, and that was kind of the end of that. until 2025 when there's a new producer-led model. So we're just wondering if this municipality had contacted companies directly to find out if they're flexible on those contracts, or if they had only spoken to the neighboring municipalities.
Just sorry, just to repeat, Claire, have they spoken to other municipalities? Actually, they spoke to their contractor, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know that?
What was recyclable or not? And because we hadn't signed a long-term contract, the idea was that we'd be first in on the producer model. The producers actually will be taking responsibility. It's going to be phased in, and we'll be in the first phase in of that model. So it won't be 2025. It'll be earlier than that.
Do you know when approximately?
I believe I had a date when I sent that out. Here, I'll have to get back into the.
I think it was the first group of municipalities or First Nations will transfer responsibility of their blue box programs to producers on July 1st, 2023.
Yeah, so not,
Okay.
Whatever that means. I don't know what that means.
I'm not sure what it means either. We haven't got a lot more details.
And yeah. So, and if there's a government change, does this change? That's also my question.
Oh,
So, right? Is this a, you know, if we get a new government in, how does that impact? And that's next year, right?
yeah.
So there are a lot of what ifs. It still doesn't address what happens in the moment.
So can we confirm for that issue on our agenda that current council is not looking into other contract options for waste management?
No, not at this point in time. They're not.
So the other quick question, we were trying to, well, we made a resolution, but maybe you can speak to this as to the right path to find this out, is to find out a rejection rate of our recycling from Limerick and all the reasoning why, so that we could get that info out to the public.
Yes, no, certainly.
Would that be best in a resolution, Bob?
Pardon?
Would that be best in a resolution?
I'm not sure. Education as to what can go in the bins is critical. A lot of people assume a lot about recycling, and a lot of things get flung into the recycling bin that don't belong there at all. And people are going on the symbol that essentially says recyclable where facilities exist.
Yeah, and also what was brought to our attention, Bob, was when it's a much different experience for people who actually go to the landfill site. Staff will say, you can't do this, you can't do that, you need to take the paper off the metal or whatever. That doesn't happen for the average resident who simply puts out their recycling.
No,
so there's no interaction that way.
I
So
agree.
people don't have that information. And it's certainly not on our website. It doesn't say anything about removing the paper on the cans on our website,
No, I think
on
that's a
the
very
village
good,
website. So
a
there's
very
a
good
big
point.
disconnect there.
So we're talking about education here more than anything else. Then.
Well, it's so, yes, part of it, in my opinion, I said doesn't address the overall problem, in my opinion, but it would certainly help. And then what happens, the stuff goes then into the garbage that goes into our landfill site. So how is that a good thing? Right?
Well, the level of rejection in all municipalities is high, based on what people think is recyclable and what is actually recyclable. And multi-stream recycling, where people put everything into the bin, results in a great deal of rejection. So the more, the idea of recycling containers one day and the recycling paper and on another day is actually a good model, because you're not getting that mixing.
Yep.
Piece of our neighboring municipalities, Montague and Granville as two examples, as waste transfer sites, they transfer every single item off-site. There is no, particularly like in North Granville, I can speak to that one perhaps a little better. Whatever goes into the site at North Granville leaves the site by the pound. Everything is calculated and shipped out. So a lot of their recyclable actually are sent off with the tipping fees already paid. The assumption that some of this is just going to go to the garbage. It's not going to be recycled at all. It isn't a great model, I realize, but the idea that other municipalities are recycling a great deal more. The real question is what is actually getting recycled and what is simply going into another landfill.
So I think to address that issue, I think this municipality as well as our contractor need to take responsibility to educate and inform people, right? Because there's no way to get that information.
I would certainly agree with that 100%, and that would be a great effort on the part of the municipality and perhaps this committee to whether funds are made available to put things in the paper as well as on the website to try and reach people through as many different avenues as possible.
So do we seek out that information ourselves by contacting Limerick and putting that together? Or is that something we need to get a resolution before council to approve before we can, how do we move forward on that one?
Well, on that particular one, if you like, I'll take the lead on that one in terms of what is actually being recycled, and the rejection rate would be something that would be very interesting to know as well.
And the reasoning, so that we have a detailed list of the reasons why things get rejected, right?
Yes. Well, I was, again, you talk about, you get an education when you go to the landfill and talk to the fellows there.
Yes, you do.
One of the fellows is very aware of what things are happening. And a few weeks ago I was there and he said, well, plastic just hit 25 bucks a ton. None of this is going to be recycled. And I'm looking at him going like, how do you mean? He says, well, that's the, and again, this is not municipal policy or anybody else.
No, it's one person's, we have to be careful. That's somebody's opinion, right?
This was his opinion that this is what's happening. This is just going to get thrown away at 25 bucks a ton. I'd like to know more about that myself. Just the idea that what is actually being recycled. And a lot of things that people can recycle in one area, they're not really being recycled anywhere. Tetra Paks being a primary example. I have no idea where those would go. I tried to follow the route on Tetra Paks to see where it would actually be recycled. And I think there's a facility in Mississauga that can recycle those. And I think in our case here in this municipality, it would be really good to educate people as to just don't buy products in this type of packaging.
Well, and that, I mean, that begs the question, right? Some of us already do that, but these are all important facts that nobody seems to know about. And I agree 100% with what you're saying, Bob. I guess I always go back to the fact that we can only control what happens in our waste management site. And our goal ultimately is to increase the life for as long as possible of that site. So we have to do everything within our power to support that. Right?
I think that if you're telling people, if you're going to tell people how much recycling isn't even getting recycled, it needs to be followed up with steps people can take to improve that, because otherwise it's just demotivating for recycling in general, instead of having people buy into making it a better system. So
your message, in the end, you want your message to be positive rather than negative.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But you can build a campaign around improving this as a municipality. We could have a whole campaign. We could have people do videos and show this is not what you do, this is what you do, and it'd just be local residents. You make it fun and you get everybody aware, and you just,
I think that's a great idea.
Better.
I love that idea, Gary.
That's stuff we can actually do. It's going to be very hard for us to influence the price of recycled plastic.
Well, this is my point. We can't, and that's not, and
we can do as much on the other stuff as we can. We know paper is one of those ones where even if we are running 90% of it getting in, we should be 100. You should be 100. Paper is the easiest thing in the world to recycle, and it's easy to get done. So even no matter how good we are or aren't, there'll be goals that we can set that are better, and we can work at it, right?
Yeah, I love that idea, Gary.
I love that idea, Gary, as well. Yeah. I love the idea of engaging some locals and creating some videos. I think that's a wonderful solution. So, Bob, how do we move forward on something like that?
Excuse me. I think that's a great idea as well. In terms of where would we present that? Like, would it be a video clip on the
a website, social media? I mean, yeah. Even to the media itself, the media would love something like this. I mean, that would be but it's creating those videos again, which is anybody can do with an iPhone. But of course, we can't run around doing things like that without the support of council. So,
Well, I think, again, the whole education component, I think, is a great idea. I think it really is. And in terms of, it gives you a chance to jump in there as well and get back to the notion of the 3 R's: reduce and reuse and then recycle, and choices we make as consumers when we buy things.
yeah.
I'm appalled at the amount of waste that comes off of these good food services or the home food delivery.
Yeah.
I had a whole pile of blow away stuff off of a delivery thing on my lawn this morning that blew off the neighbor's place, but it's an amazing amount of waste comes out of a lot of these products that people buy.
So I think we can all agree that an education approach, an
I think
educational
that's
approach is a really positive one. I love the idea of videos though, more than anything. I think paper falls by the wayside. I think videos are what's happening these days. And I love that
Sadly,
idea.
yes.
So how do
sadly.
we make something like that happen, Bob? What do we ask of council? Like, how do we start a program like that? Wouldn't it be a great accomplishment for us?
I think that I will approach Doug Robertson and find out where we are on the new village website that's been under construction for quite a long time, and
Yes.
see if there's a component in that village website that would have local interest, something that could contain videos that people could download in terms of educating them. I'm not sure how big an item that is on a website. I'm afraid I'm very.
Oh, downloading videos on new websites isn't a big deal, but I
And
want to make
just-
sure it's. Sorry, Claire, go ahead.
It doesn't matter. It's just the mechanics of it.
It's easy enough to
Yeah.
do. It's not a problem to do that. But I want to make sure that it's not just, a little something on the website. It needs to be, it's important, right? The
Oh,
recycling and so
I
it
agree.
needs to be have a space of its own. I'm assuming waste management or something of the likes, environmental something is one of the categories. The whole other discussion. I should have added that I think we'll add that as new business, actually. A new business item is the categories on the new website, because that's not a discussion that's been had. So back to, I digress. So how do we approach this, Bob, if we are recommending as the EAC that we take on a campaign like this, even if it means some of us being involved? Like I don't know about you, rest of my team, whether you would be willing to participate in something like that. Or we could certainly get volunteers to help us, but it would be a tangible project, I think, for the EAC to embark on.
Sure, I'm a former teacher, so all you have to do is wave education in front of me.
So
And we never it's so hard to stop telling people what to do. So
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. So is this EAC? Is this something that we would like to do as a committee?
Yeah, I think there's no issue getting this done and doing it as a group. The only thing is for next steps to me is actually getting the background information consolidated into one source
Yeah.
as to exactly what people need to do and not do to help that
Yeah.
rejection rate. So that's, for me, that's priority one.
Yes.
And then the details of actually getting that information out there, I have utmost faith in people, all of you, to be able to put this together. It's not that big of a hurdle, as long as council is in approval.
But as
Of us doing
a
it.
member of council, I think it's a great idea. Public education is I think where we have to go. And from my end, if I can find out whether or not we have a platform for an educational message before you put the effort into creating one, if we start with simple print messaging that we can put on a website or in the local paper, etc. But beyond that, certainly I would like to see if we have a space on the website for video, because that's, to do a video that looks good, it's going to take some effort, even though it can be done non-professionally, it is going to take a lot of effort on the part of people. So I'd like to make certain that we have a platform for it before you put the effort in.
Sorry, Bob, you can just do it as a YouTube video and then embed it on your page. So
I suppose we could. I
Yeah.
hadn't even thought of that. I was thinking of a standalone video, but I suppose a YouTube video with a simple, this is what is recyclable in Merrickville, Wolford,
Exactly.
these items, and have a link.
And
on the
actually
webpage.
physically show some of these items and things that are not, for example. But I'm going to go back again as chair and just, Claire, you made an excellent point. We need those statistics first to see what we're up against.
Now this
So
is the
Bob,
rejection.
do we put that in a resolution? And can you explain to our group what resolutions actually mean and how they work and so on? There's a lot of confusion about that.
Again, this is the resolution part is fairly new for me as well. If it's a resolution is an action item that is presented to council by a committee, usually after a committee has been tasked with researching it. And you people are well underway. You're focused and you have a goal. So I will look at I'll contact Doug Robertson, and as soon as we're done here, I'm going to fire him off an email and find out what's the best way to move forward with this for your committee. Whether it's a resolution or whether, like if there's funds required, then it would have to go to council.
Yeah, and is that seems to be the turning point, right? That whether or not it involves funds, that seems to be the and that also fair enough. So yeah, it's just we want to know the difference basically between when we include something in the minutes and when we put something forward as a resolution, because what we consider resolutions to be our action items. We're asking for either direct response or, you know, whatever the case may be, whether, because it gets lost in the minutes sometimes, doesn't it?
Oh, it can, but a resolution has to go before council. I'm just going to try and, I know I got some information. I did inquire to Doug. I'm in a really different format here now. I'm trying to reduce this without losing you so that I can get into my emails and see what I got back.
Because we did the question number 4, Bob, while you're searching, was the stats from the landfill site for the last 5 years, and Brad was on vacation. Yes. So you were going to request information from him. Have you had a chance to do that yet?
I have requested the information from him. I was trying to find it in my agenda packages.
Okay.
From 2020 and 2019, as to at year end, we would get a report from Public Works on the landfill site, and it's more in the nature of tons, you know, what got shipped and what didn't. And again, I'm not having a lot of luck here.
Okay, that's okay. If you can come back to us with that information, yes. We want to find the most effective way to move forward on some of these things. Yeah. The other question was question number 2, Bob. And that was advised if any of the recommendations in the EAC strat plan of 2018 have been implemented, and you were going to check on that for us.
Again, I'm having trouble.
It's okay. Just we can.
Yeah, if I could email you, Annie.
Yep.
With that information, you can distribute it to the.
That would be great. Yeah. So,
sure.
So we've got two things that we need from you, Bob, and that's to find out if anything's been implemented in the strat plan from an environmental perspective.
Okay.
And then the other one was those stats from the landfill site.
Yes.
And we'd like to see the difference between, if possible, waste and recyclables, because those are two different. And then, if at all even possible, and this may be pushing it, the difference between paper and the metal/plastic. So we're curious to see that.
Yeah, well, from everything I understand, the metal the metal has value.
Yes, but what if metal ends up with a bunch of plastic in a blue box and the plastic's not the right plastic, then the whole thing gets dumped, right?
I'm not certain. I'll definitely follow up on that.
Yeah, I doubt they handpick the metal out. I mean, they might, but
well,
I don't know.
In a perfect world, I'd like to think they might, but
yeah, but who does that and where? I don't know if that's realistic.
Exactly.
Well, it depends on what's easiest to sort as well.
Yeah, but because they're all lumped in together, and if you look at those large bins at the waste management site, for example, when there's metal and plastic together, like I find it hard to believe, but I could be wrong.
Okay, stats for landfill. I just want to make sure I get this down so I can get back to you.
So Janice has actually put it as a resolution. We've produced a couple of resolutions. Maybe we can just update Bob on what we have for resolutions. That might help, Bob, please.
Here we go. One I know darn well involved that. I'm flipping back pages of notes. Hang in there. That was aha. The first resolution we discussed today was getting from Limerick how much recycling is being rejected. Well, Bob, you've said you would deal with that.
Yes.
So do we need to have that resolution then, Bob?
No, this will be an inquiry on my part.
Okay.
Okay, I'll show it as a question and you have
Yeah,
kindly
so if you
volunteered to get the answer.
If you can put it in the minutes, though, make sure and
Absolutely.
just state that Bob will be
Yep.
getting that information for us. That would be great. Thank
I've
you very much.
already made that
Janice.
commitment for him.
Excellent.
And the other was the second half of that was request the statistics for the waste stream and diversion rate for the last 5 years as broken down as possible. Well, once again, that's what Bob has just said. He'll
Okay, great.
try and
I'll
find for
definitely,
us.
I'll definitely be in touch with Brad. A lot of it, as I say, will come from our annual report, so it'll be pretty dry. It'll be just basic times in
That's okay.
and how much is shipped out. But in terms of yes, what's actually can be recycled, but certainly be your idea of an educational component is certainly, I think, a great move.
So I think secondary to that, once we get those stats, then the opportunity to embark on some kind of an education program. And I guess what we need to know is how much can we be involved in education program? Is this can an education program be led by the EAC? Is that a reasonable question?
I would certainly think that would be a great use of a committee.
I think so too.
Would be to you are motivated and you're interested, and I think that it'd be stupid of us not to use you. If I can put it that way.
Thank you. I think, Bob.
I'm warning you, Bob, that may go into the minutes.
So I guess that's the other question. And does that need to be a resolution? So Bob, do any of these things we just talked about need to be resolutions, or
Well,
should they just be part of the minutes?
I think when they come to the point of, and again, I was inquiring, I'm trying to find out from how this process works in terms of resolutions. I think if council tasks a committee and a committee comes back with an answer, then that resolution would be in the minutes. For example, if to go back to that recycler program that I sent you, which you recognize that this has had a huge cost to get involved in, that food cycler. As it was explained to me, if council had have tasked you with that job, then your reply would have come back as a resolution. That at this point,
Okay.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Okay.
funds, etc., were to council didn't actually task you with that job. I had been in communication with the food cycler people, and I had sent that to you as a point of interest. But
Yeah, I think the only task that council has given us is to take a look into the waste management plan. And I think one of them was to whether or not we needed to recommended whether we should hire a consultant or do the work ourselves or something like that. Can someone correct me or clarify? I think, it's not Claire? I think that was the only thing we've been tasked with.
It was whether or not we needed a new waste management plan to be commissioned. And we looked at the 2011 plan in our first meeting in great detail, and we realized that there were a whole bunch of goals and initiatives set out in that plan that have not been implemented. So that's why we're looking for this. Even the tonnage, as dry as that information is, that's important to see if that 2011 waste management plan is still applicable and if we're meeting the goals set out in it, because if there's a lot left to do in that plan, then we might not need a new one yet. So I think that's where we ended up with.
So our focus has been on waste management, Bob, just for your information. So
No.
anything that we're doing involves waste management at this point, because I mean, we've been tasked with a very broad sort of request. So we're trying to fill in the gaps before we can make any recommendations. I guess that's what we're.
yeah, so recommendations from the waste management plan. I think we've got that one written down already. I'm just trying to put it down so I can actually read it and then get an email off to Doug Robertson. I did, as I said, I sent an email earlier in the week to Brad Cole requesting the information on the reports where I can access them, because again, I was going back through my own agendas and not being able to find it, but I will request those stats from Brad.
You
And
can
then-
also refer to the minutes, Bob, when Janice gets them done, if you have any concerns about that. So like if you feel like you're missing anything.
Yeah, no, we'll get some more information. As far as the information that Brad has available, I'll try and find out when we put the weigh scale in, because when the weigh scale was put in, the amount of material coming into the landfill dropped dramatically. And just the whole process, they've tightened up the landfill rather dramatically. If you remember the previous employee that we had there running the landfill, and before we had a weigh scale, it was
Not what you know, it's who you know.
yeah, well, it wasn't run particularly efficient. And there was a very, very significant reduction in the amount of waste coming into the landfill once they started to put the controls in place. And so those controls have been in place. I'm trying to remember how many years now. But,
I remember, Gary, you might remember, because I remember were you on the committee at the time? It's been a number of years, and I don't think I'm exaggerating. 5?
Previous council in their first year or so.
Yeah, it's been a while.
I'm gonna say like 6 or 7.
So 6 or 7 years. It's been
5 year
quite some time. Yeah.
So the 5-year picture would be a pretty good picture then. Okay, good.
Yeah. So
I was
that's great.
just wondering whether that distortion would appear there. Yeah, certainly to get as much information as we can in terms of how much is being shipped. And the rejection rate was the other thing you were interested in.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it isn't just stats from landfill would include what shipped and how much. So after we ship it, I'll just inquire as to whether we find out.
Yeah, so it'd be nice to know rejection rate, and if possible, like the top 3 reasons for rejection.
Right. Okay.
And
Like that kind of thing, because then it gives us a target for the education, right?
Exactly. Okay. No, those would certainly be good stats to have, and as you say, to form an education policy. Now, if you get to the point where you think that funds are going to be required, that would be a resolution to council. Like if we're going to do
Fair enough.
a survey or a mail out or an education program that's going to require costs, that would be a resolution to council.
yeah, I think getting the stats and having a clear view. My concern is we're going to have to wait to approve these minutes and then wait another month before we can, move forward on them. So everything's always a big delay, right? So if there's a way of getting that information, that information from you, Bob, in between meetings, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
Yes, no,
Okay.
that you certainly are. And no, I will try and get back to you. I feel like I have neglected you a bit here, and particularly being late for this meeting, which I apologize for.
Okay.
But
It's okay. We were late as well.
I don't get my village emails on my personal email, so I check my village emails during the day.
Okay.
And,
So I'll make sure that I include for future reference, I'll put your personal email
That would be-
attached so that I didn't realize that. Okay.
No, that's fine. That's my own weakness. I just
Okay. Good to know. No, it's good to know. we
I
can
do check
rectify
my
that.
village email on a regular basis, but it's
Okay.
how would you put
Hear
it?
that.
It could be 9 in the morning. It could be 2 in the afternoon.
Hear that.
sort of thing.
I did actually do a reminder first thing this morning, but it's not important. You're here now and we've had some questions answered. So that's what's more important.
Well,
Okay. I think we've addressed everything on the agenda we had, unless anybody has any questions before we move on to, Bob has explained to us about resolutions, or he will, from what we understand, but get us more information on the resolutions to make sure we're on the same page. Does anybody have any questions before we move on to new business, of which there isn't any, but anybody want any clarifications? Janice, are you okay with
Yep.
what you need? Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Anybody else have any questions or concerns before we move on to, no, yes, no, nope, good. I've been an online teacher for a while now. I'm like looking for like nodding or, okay, so we have no new business, which sounds very strange, but I think we were focused so much on just dealing with the past and the old business that we didn't want to take on any new business without being able to move forward on the other stuff. So I think that's one of the reasons why we didn't add any. Any question? Go ahead, Janice.
I was just going to say, I'm fond of informed decisions.
Yes.
And we simply needed some of the information that Bob's already come up with, and he's going to find the rest. So we'll move on.
That's great.
And so I will, whatever I get, I will forward to you, Annie, and you'll distribute?
Yes, please. That would be great. That'd be awesome. So we've already approved the agenda, so there are no new business items. So before we adjourn, anybody have any questions or comments or need anything or? No?
Nope. Good.
Okay, we're good. All right then. Claire. So can I have someone move to adjourn the meeting, please? And I apologize for the delay. I mean, I try to keep it in an hour, but we had some technical difficulties. So move, Gary, and a seconder, please, Claire.
Yep.
That's awesome. That's great. Okay. Well, thank you very much, everybody. And we look forward to getting the information from you, Bob.
We'll come through with that information. It'll probably be this weekend at the earliest, before people get back to me, or even Monday's council. So that'll be the usual. They're trying to get ready for council meetings, so it could even be the middle of next week, to be quite frank.
Okay. Okay. As we know, you'll get it to us as soon as you can.
I will.
Okay.
And I'll have minutes, etc., done over the weekend. So as of next week, I'll send them off, and you can all correct anything I've got wrong, like Claire's name.
Awesome. What an
and we'll be fine.
Group we have. Perfect. Thank you, everybody, very, very much. It was nice to see everybody, and yeah, we'll plan for next meeting. Oh, I should tell you, next meeting, sorry about that. Before we adjourn, next meeting is proposed for November the 24th.
No problem.
Okay. Does that work for everybody?
Yep.
I think so.
Okay. Okay. So that's what's been proposed. Is we're trying to keep it on a specific date. I apologize. I moved it this date because I will be away next week. So. All right.
Wednesday,
okay.
November 24th. Yes.
November 24th. So we try and do it, Bob, the fourth Wednesday of every month.
Okay.
Is what our goal is, unless there, something crazy going on. And I know that works well for council. Nobody else has meetings that night either. So, okie dokie. Thanks, everybody.
Have a good night.
Okay, you too.